here in New Hampshire, Nikki Haley has made an unholy alliance with RINOs, never-Trumpers. Americans for No Prosperity. Did you ever hear of Americans for No Prosperity? I added the word no because that's essentially what they do.
Former US President Donald Trump says he's looking forward to working with Ron DeSantis to beat Joe Biden. The Florida governor was seen as the most viable Republican alternative, but today he announced his decision to suspend his 2024 campaign for president, and he's endorsing Donald Trump.
But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance.
Former President Trump won the Iowa caucuses last week, solidifying his standing as the Republican frontrunner. Donald Trump told Fox News Digital he's very honoured to have the Florida governor's endorsement, and he looks forward to working together with him to beat Joe Biden, who is the worst and most corrupt president in the history of our country. Donald Trump has previously called Ron DeSantis Ron DeScantimonious on the campaign trail, but now insists that name has been officially retired. Former South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley is the last candidate standing between Donald Trump and his third straight Republican nomination. Nikki Haley thanked Ron DeSantis for his campaign before renewing calls for Americans to vote for something new.
Ron, he ran a great race. He's been a good governor, and we wish him well. Having said that, it's now one fella and one lady left. So there were 14 people in this race. There were a lot of fellas. All the fellas are out, except for this one. And this comes down to, what do you want? Do you want more of the same, or do you want something new?
Former White House Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney has told Sky News Ron DeSantis threw his support behind Donald Trump and took aim at Nikki Haley in anticipation for the 2028 campaign.
That's Ron being Ron. He's kind of a stiff person, and he's a really smart person. He's an engaging person, but he doesn't do well one-on-one. Florida, where he has been very successful, is a huge state. And when you campaign there, you campaign on TV and on giant stages and auditoriums. Iowa is a really, really small state. And when you campaign there, you do it door to door and in people's living rooms. And he was never able to sell the same Ron DeSantis in Iowa as he was in Florida.
It's really interesting to see where we're at. We're still just under a year out from the presidential election. I didn't expect Ron DeSantis to be pulling out of the race so soon. Less surprising, I guess, is his endorsement of Donald Trump. He's kind of handing over the MAGA credentials to the guy who created it in Donald Trump, but taken quite a shot at Nikki Haley on the way out. Did that surprise you?
That does not surprise me. Keep in mind,
what's the bad blood there? What's the history? Come on.
It's not history, it's the future. It's 2028. Right. Both of them now are sort of coming to the realization that Donald Trump is going to be the winner. Now, Nikki Haley is going to have a chance in New Hampshire. We could talk about that in a second. But Trump can only serve one more term, which means that even if he wins, 2028 will be an open race, and two of the leading contenders are going to be Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley. So this was a chess move designed to sort of pigeonhole Nikki as an establishment centrist politician. Not sure that's going to work or not, but that's what he's trying to do in anticipation of 4 years from now.
Yeah, really interesting. I just want to show our viewers as well a little tete-a-tete between Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. It was almost a Joe Biden moment for Donald Trump. Let's have a look.
Nikki Haley is in charge of security. We offered her 10,000 people, soldiers, National Guard, whatever they want. They turned it down. They don't want to talk about that.
But last night, Trump is at a rally, and he's going on and on mentioning me multiple times as to why I didn't take security during the Capitol riots. Why I didn't handle January 6th better. I wasn't even in D.C. on January 6th.
Okay, what happened there? Did Donald Trump really confuse Nikki Haley with Nancy Pelosi?
Probably. It's not the first time, but recently he also confused Joe Biden and Barack Obama a couple weeks back in a long presentation. He's had little minor screw-ups like this. Sometimes they're gaffes, but when you do it again and again, it starts to raise questions. And the Republican electorate has become so attuned to Joe Biden being out of touch and too old for the job that I think Nikki Haley sees an opening here to raise the issue. She doesn't have to attack Trump on his policies, doesn't have to attack on his personality, can attack him on his mental ability. It might be too little too late, but it's certainly created an avenue for her here late in the early primaries.
Yeah, also in his age too, really, because I think Donald Trump gets away with, the comparison between him and Joe Biden. They're of a similar age. Joe Biden older, obviously, but he's no spring chicken. But anyway, going into the New Hampshire primary, this is certainly one to watch. The demographics very different from Iowa, of course. What can we expect here? Predictions, if you will, Mick Mulvaney.
Very close race. I'm hearing from my folks in New Hampshire who understand the race that she actually might have a chance to win. I don't believe that. It feels more like a 6-8 point kind of race. Keep in mind, you're right, the demographics are different. More importantly, the structure is different. Here, independents can vote in New Hampshire. So folks who are not aligned or used to be Democrats and now declare themselves to be independent can vote and will be voting in this race. This is Nikki Haley's very best chance to beat Donald Trump. I don't think she's going to get across the line, but she might get it down in the low single digits here on Tuesday night.
If she does she have a chance? Or is this, a coronation for Donald Trump, either way you look at it?
That's a great question. By the way, it's a question not nearly enough American media are asking because the next state is South Carolina. After New Hampshire, South Carolina, where I am tonight, where Nikki Haley was governor, Donald Trump is winning here by 35 points. He got the endorsement this week of Tim Scott, who Nikki Haley gave a Senate seat to a decade ago. Now, he dropped out of the race and endorsed
Tim Scott. He was your guy. He was the normal Republican poster boy, wasn't he? Why has he turned around and endorsed Donald Trump?
I asked him that question. I know Tim well enough. I called him. I said, Tim, what is this all about? He said, look, I really liked working with Trump. He always treated me well on things that were important to me. And Tim then ran off a list of legislation that was passed when Donald Trump was president. So I think it's a devil working relationship kind of endorsement, but it's huge in South Carolina.
So the race for the Republican nomination is down to just Donald Trump and Nikki Haley. The New Hampshire primary may be the last chance to change the trajectory of the race, which looks set to deliver American voters a Trump versus Biden rematch this November. Sky News Washington correspondent Annalise Nielsen is on the ground in New Hampshire.
If Nikki Haley were to win New Hampshire, it would be the first real loss of momentum for Donald Trump's campaign. And now Ron DeSantis is out of the game. It changes the maths drastically. Do his supporters go to Donald Trump, or does Nikki Haley surge as the only alternative to Donald Trump in this very competitive race? Former Governor Ron DeSantis had slipped to around 6% in the polls in the first-in-the-nation primary state of New Hampshire. It seemed he couldn't sustain his campaign long enough to regroup in South Carolina's primary next month.
If there was anything I could do to produce a favorable outcome, more campaign stops, more interviews, I would do it. But I can't ask our supporters to volunteer their time and donate their resources if we don't have a clear path to victory. Accordingly, I am today suspending my campaign. I'm proud to have delivered on 100% of my promises, and I will not stop now. It's clear to me that a majority of Republican primary voters want to give Donald Trump another chance.
With the endorsement on the way out for Donald Trump, it's quite likely Ron DeSantis' supporters will go towards the former president.
We just got some word that one of our opponents, very capable person, is dropping out of the race, Ron DeSantis. And Ron is dropping out, and in doing so, he endorsed us.
Sky News was there when Nikki Haley met with voters at a lobster shack in Seabrook, New Hampshire, where she's hoping to turn this campaign around.
I really like her. I think she's definitely the best candidate for the party, for that party. So, but I'm here to hear what she has to say. I'm really interested.
I think that the independent voters are tired of the trips back to the past. We need to go forward. We want to have someone who has has common sense, who wants to work for the country, not what we can do for them.
This is now essentially a two-person race. For Nikki Haley to pull ahead, though, she needs those moderates and independents to come out to vote. They're not the kind of voters that tend to vote in a primary, but this time around it might just be different. Annalise Nielsen, Sky News in Seabrook, New Hampshire.